Welcome, everybody, to the R&R CatCast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R CatCast. This is our special instant reaction episode. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. We are Ryanless Thornburg. He's in Germany, but we have a guest podcaster, Zack Lavier, a longtime listener of our podcast and a good friend and a current student at MSU. Zack, how are you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Foley?
I'm doing awesome, man. Just got done doing some family stuff, going to church, and then, we had Gold Rush to watch last night. We're going to get right into that here in a moment, but now I've had a night to kind of sit on it and morning to think about it a little bit, so we have some thoughts. What we'll basically do in these episodes is we tend to go through the Big Sky, so we'll go down through the Big Sky like week one, what happened in the Big Sky. And then Zach and I are going to riff on Gold Rush, and we'll give the good, the okay, and the bad. So just kind of like a conversation between us, as akin to what you would have with your friends going home from the game.
Yeah, definitely a lot to chew on. And coming back from last night, just kind of laying in bed, and there were some things where I was like, we did that. And yeah, so I'm ready to get into it.
Okay, right on. So let's talk about, let's go into the Big Sky, and we'll go down through the games. I just have ESPN pulled up. And so I'm going to start us off. So we'll go game by game. Let's go through. I don't know, what do you think, Zach? Do you think we should start on Thursday's games?
Yeah, let's start. I think Sac State Nichols is the top of the list on Thursdays.
Okay, there you go. So Sac State, the new era of Sac State. Who's their coach right now?
Oh goodness, they promoted their offensive coordinator. They name's slipping my mind on that.
Yeah, he was a Grizzly. Anyways, that'll come to me like midway through this. Sac State won. They beat Nichols 38-24. I didn't get to catch most of that game, but a little bit here and there. I wonder where they're going to go with their dual quarterback system that they had such success with last year. But nonetheless, they're starting off 1-0. 38-24 is not a bad win for them.
Yeah, just early road game at a conference, took care of business, it looked like.
Yeah, they were on the road too. Let's see. I'm going to pull over real quick. I need to see who that is. Oh, Andy Thompson. That's who it is. I couldn't believe I forgot that. All right, second down the list, we have Idaho taking care of business, 42-17 at Lamar. I did watch that game because I wanted to see if Idaho is going to be all the shine that preseason has them. And they look pretty good. They scored early and often, and then Lamar came back with a couple points at the end there in the fourth quarter to make it look a little bit more respectful. I don't know, 42-17 is really not that respectful, but Giovanni McCoy had 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looks like Hayden Haddon had 2 touchdowns, 86 yards, so that's a solid start for them.
Yep, the biggest mystery in the conference still lives of how they are, and I don't know who they play next week, but hopefully we'll get a little more information on them before we see them midseason.
Yeah, it is a big question mark. What will Idaho do this year? So far,
goodness.
So good. All right, Northern Colorado. This was the one win I thought they were going to get, and they lost to Abilene Christian, so they lost 11-31. And they have a new coach as well. Ed Lamb, I believe, is... Yeah, Ed Lamb. So many new coaches in the Big Sky. So I don't see many wins coming up for the Northern Colorado Bears. And this was one that I think got away from them.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough season. And I think somebody at the game yesterday behind me said something about how I don't believe we play Northern Colorado this year.
Mm-mm.
And it was, there was a riff of 2 fans talking about how... they're like, oh, thank goodness we don't play them anymore. But someone goes, wait, that's basically a bye week for us. So an easy win. So yeah. There was some fan conversation about Northern Colorado in the stands, how we finally don't play them for the first time in forever. But, you basically get a beat up on a lower team.
Yeah, they start 0-1, so it's going to be a tough year for them. But I think Ed Lamb, he's a proven coach in the Big Sky. I think he will be able to get those guys, at least culture wise, started, turning that ship around.
Yeah, so it's easy to turn things around. We've seen it before in the conference, so we'll just have time will tell.
All right. Let's move on to the next game. UC Davis was on the road to Texas A&M Commerce, and they won 48-10. Miles Hastings had 239 yards, one touchdown, but he also had two interceptions. That's a good win for UC Davis. They just look solid all around. They were picked second in the coaches poll. They look good.
Same word comes to mind, solid. That was just, they look every bit of what they're supposed to be.
And the last game on Thursday looks like Weber State at home against Central Washington. I'm not sure if Central Washington is a Division One school. I don't think they are. Do you
No,
know?
they're Division II. They're in the same division as Western Oregon.
Okay. Well, Weber took care of business 35-10, starting off the Mickey Mintle era. And Mickey Mintle was the OC last year before Jay Hill moved on. So he got promoted. So now they have an offensive coordinator or offensive minded head coach. A lot of question marks around Weber for me. What's your take on Weber? What do you think from them this year?
Well, they lost a lot. Their quarterback transferred out, and I know they had some guys follow the head coach Jay Hill to BYU. So
Yeah.
it's going to be hard. First week playing a lower division team too, so you didn't really see them play anybody of note. But I think we'll see pretty soon. I expect them to still be solid and scrappy, and the Cats go down there in mid-October. So I think that'll be a pretty darn good game.
Oh, always is, man. It's
Yep.
a slobber knocker for sure.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. How about you take their games on Saturday? Lead us through those.
Yep. So I have the poor Portland State Vikings who had to go to Oregon and lose 81-7.
Ooh.
Did you see how many push-ups the Oregon Duck had to do?
No, I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
So he had to do 564 push-ups or something like that. Oh man, just unfortunate for the poor
Oh,
Vikings. I don't have scores for the San Diego State Idaho game, but I know Idaho State surprisingly gave San Diego State a pretty darn good game till the end.
yeah, it looks like it was
I think it was
38-36.
yeah. So Idaho State was second to last or predicted to be last in the conference, right there with Northern Colorado, and boy, they showed up against a San Diego State team that's supposed to be pretty decent this year.
So
So that was a little bit of a surprise.
that was the one big surprise to me when I'm looking at this. Not that they lost, but they kept it close in. You know,
Yeah.
if you look at the fourth quarter, they put up 15 points. Maybe it's akin to our fourth quarter where San Diego State's maybe playing all their fourth stringers, right? But if you look even at halftime, the score was 20-13. So they were keeping it close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that piqued my interest for sure.
we had a 40-point lead. They had an 8-point lead. So if they were resting starters there, I'd be a little concerned about
Okay,
coaching
fair enough.
mismanagement.
Good point.
uh, Next one I have, I think Arizona kind of waxed NAU. Was that 38-3?
Yeah.
Just kind of a classic, bigger team beating up on a little team. First game of the season dress rehearsal. Not a lot of major takeaways from that. Yeah, we'll see with NAU.
And then we have one more with Cal Poly, right? Cal Poly got off to a win, 27 to
Yeah, look
10
at
over
that.
San Diego, the Toreros. We played San Diego. I can't never remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it might have been the year before, but yeah, good for them. Paul Wolf reinventing himself yet again over at Cal Poly. So good to see that happen for those guys. Oh, I guess
Yep.
we have one more, right? Eastern
Yeah.
Washington.
Yep. And then we have Eastern Washington who lost
Oh,
35-10, kept it close for a little bit. But that game was a cool atmosphere. Did you watch any of that in the Viking Stadium?
I did. I was fooled at first because they had the North Dakota State logo, just like they do in the Fargo Dome, and I was like, man, this looks a little bit different. And I was like, oh yeah, they're playing somewhere else. But that's where the Vikings play.
Yes. So they played a game. They did that when Trey Lance was the quarterback. They played at Target Field. I think they just go over there for the alumni. just to play a game close to home, close to where most of their fan base is.
Yeah. Yep. I've actually figured out who Eastern's quarterback is, a guy named Visperus or something like that. He seems kind of like their quarterbacks that they normally have, quick of feet, can sling it around. So a lot has changed for Eastern, but a lot looks the same to me. They just went up against North Dakota State and had a good showing. So the question on Saturday came up in my mind. I was like, man, I really haven't thought too much about Eastern, and I don't want to think about Eastern all that much. So if they're good, that could throw a huge wrench into all my thoughts about the Big Sky, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they'll be middle of the road, Big Sky this year. I don't see them pulling any massive upsets, but I they definitely did tease North Dakota State there for a decent part of that game, and then NDSU just pulled away late.
Yeah. Got
And
one
then
more.
the final one is the Grizz game. They won 35-20. That game was close. I think a lot of Cats fans were watching that one and surprised with the score. I think the Grizz fans were surprised with the score. And I think the only thing that took the kind of salt out of that close game was that big hit, because I think I've seen that highlight probably 30,000 times now. But if you look at the score and playing a non-scholarship football team and them keeping it close like that at your place is it's a little concerning for sure.
Yeah, they have some question marks, definitely. Quite a few people were texting me like, "What do you think about that?" And the way I landed is I think they played about what they are ranked. They looked like the
Yep.
16th ranked team in the nation to me. So
Yep.
it's weird because Montana has come out hair on fire the last couple of years, and then they have not really peaked after that. So there's definitely some wiggle room for them to improve from this.
Yep, and they've normally, the hair on fire has been kind of playing lesser opponents, beating up on these kind of teams. So for to see them not really beat up on a team like this was I guess a little surprising from the norm.
Yeah. See what they do with that two quarterback system. They were high on Vidlac, and then McDowell came in, and he was the classic read option guy. He only threw one pass. Complete or no, I think he threw three, is what I was reading this morning. Completed one for five. Yeah, really interested to see what they go forward. I think next week they play Utah Tech.
They do. They go to Utah Tech,
Yeah,
so that'll be a fun little comparison to see kind of how the two teams match up and what they do there.
right on. All right, that's the Big Sky, and now we get to talk about our Montana State Bobcats. Zach, you were at Gold Rush last night. You were texting me photos and videos. I'm sitting over here in Spokane, super jealous. You weren't the only one. I had other fans texting me. I was like, oh man, it is such an elite atmosphere. It's so cool to think about. Gosh, I don't know what year they started. It was early 2000s. It's what Gold Rush is, what, 20 years old now? Something like that. Maybe
So
2003.
somebody made a comment that they had been technically doing Gold Rush since like 1998 time frame, but minus the COVID year. But I don't think that's right. So
No.
we got to find where the origins of Gold Rush came from, because I think that's becoming more and more of a mystery of when this thing actually started. But boy, what an electric atmosphere, and the fan base has really embraced it.
I do believe it started with the Rob Ash era, and our first game was Dixie State. I just don't know what the I just don't know what year that was. So, I mean, we were playing the same team. Dixie State
Yep.
has become Utah Tech. So, for
Heck.
fans, if you don't know, this is where it all started. But I was just thinking about this today. Wow, just look where we've come from. It's just amazing to see on TV. I know I've been there in person. It's even grander in person. But wow, Montana State just shows out. It's such a cool thing that they've adopted and cultivated, along with the rodeo entrance and the sea of yellow. It's such a special atmosphere. Being at night, you get to see the sunset. I think SWX did such a cool job of capturing the stadium with the bridgers in the back and the sunset match. At one point, the sea of gold that you saw through the crowd. It was an awesome image, and you just feel really lucky as a Bobcat fan because it just has its own energy at this point.
It was a perfect night. Temperatures were perfect, a little wind. The pregame pageantry was beautiful. They had a flyover too, and the place was rocking. Section was singing the national anthem, and it was just a very, you get the chills. There's very few sporting events that give you the chills, and it's like, this is it. We've made football season, and they've made this. The fans have made this tradition really worthwhile going to and really important.
All right. This is the part where I've been looking forward to talking to you about. We're just going to riff on the good, the okay, as we call it, and the bad. And let's start with the good. And we'll just kind of pick through some topics. I know I have a list over here on my steno pad that I carry around all season long, and I don't know how you've organized your thoughts, but I'll punt it to you first. Give me one of the good things that came out from this game.
So my good thing is, I think we had, with the two quarterbacks, 8 different ball carriers,
Ooh,
and what were we, 405 yards on the ground, and once again, what we knew, is confirmed, that the running back room is going to be really good, and we're going to be able to move the ball, and we have guys to move the ball, and I think there were some new faces. Was it Scottree Humphrey? And boy, he went off, and he's a freshman.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so just seeing our run game once again in the field and just running all over dudes, that was pretty awesome.
I was surprised to see how explosive and how mature Scottree Humphrey looks. Although I would say if I had a kind of a little work upon for him, he could be maybe a little bit more patient hitting the hole. But that guy was just like a cannon. He had 114 yards on 14 carries, 3 touchdowns, the long of 47. Julius Davis didn't have the stats, but when we got to see him, he looked all of it as well. He was a guy I hadn't seen. And then all of a sudden you're bringing in Jared White, Elijah Elliott, poor Lane Sumner again, getting
Again, oh goodness, that was
hobbled
hard
up.
to watch.
So this is 5 guys. We saw Adam Jones get a carry that got negated by a hold late in the game. That was like a 40-yard carry. We would
Yeah.
have, and so you would have added, in garbage time, another 40 yards on top of our rushing statistics. Man, how do you get my question I always come back to is, I was talking with Thorny the other day, is how do you keep these guys engaged, right? Because
Yep.
it's you just have a stable, and you just have to be a selfless runner for Montana State, because you're not going to get all the carries, but you're going to get some.
No, we're not going to have somebody who's getting, a bunch of carries a game. I wrote down from last year, Sumner had 23 carries in Gold Rush last year.
Wow, good
And so
statistic.
that was one thing that I was like, well, did we do a stable of backs last year for Gold Rush to kind of see what we had? And we really didn't. So to see that many different guys get carries and all be effective, again, that's cool. Oh, sorry that.
Couldn't hear you there. You went on mute for a moment. It's all right, buddy. One other thing I thought it was in the good category was Tommy Malott just seems like the general of the team. He just has full command. He seemed more confident in the pocket. He seemed like his throws were dialed. He went what? Uh
Yeah,
8 for 14 for 157. He had 2 drops in there that were just dimes. Like, I mean, Aiden Garrigan dropped one right on the sideline. That would have been a first down on a third down. I think that might have been the only time we actually punted.
yep.
I might be conflating that, but uh man, he just looked comfortable. And like we got it in a couple third and long situations. He's quite the magician back there. The way we run our offense, like he you know, just gets up the middle
Yeah,
and,
I did
avoids
write
a
down on
hard
your bold
tackle, and then he
prediction
gets
for
you
the game that
10,
you
11,
said it
12
would be a
yards when you need
50-yard
it.
touchdown
Just
pass,
the
and I
man.
think
Tommy's the man.
I sent you a tombstone emoji when it didn't happen. But you're a math teacher, so I was going to give you kind of partial credit on that because I think he did
Uh,
throw a 50-yard touchdown pass, the
yeah.
second or third touchdown of the game. So okay, so it yeah. Okay, so I mean, you're a teacher. I'll
47
give you a
yards
little
to
partial
Jared
credit for
White.
that one.
Of all people, Jared White. Close.
Oh, it was unreal.
Yeah. By the way, that catch Jared White had was sick. I was like, I thought that was Cleveland Thomas, and then it was like, no, that's not CT right there.
Yeah.
He went up and picked it over that guy, the defensive
Yeah,
back,
that
and
was
just
truly
just
awesome.
stone cold,
So
just took it into the end
yeah,
zone from there.
so that was
What a
all
play
kind of
by
I had
Jared
for the
White.
good. I mean,
So
it
wow,
was a blowout win, so I think there's a lot of good, but on the main things I can talk about, that's kind of what I had.
yeah, yeah. That's about same for me. There's a lot you could put in the good, right? But I mean, with our expectations that we have for our team, I will probably be a little bit more nitpicky. So we'll move on to the okay. I'll start us off with the okay. I thought our pass rush was okay. I didn't see too many guys getting home. I expected probably 3 to 4 sacks. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the defensive stats yet. I didn't log into those this morning, but maybe we might have had 2 sacks yesterday. Some people talk about, oh, Brody Greavy's getting held, and if it really does look like Brody Greavy's getting held. But another guy mentioned it somewhere. It's like we don't like maybe Greavy just doesn't have
Yeah,
the
so am I
juice
ugly?
that
I
we
had a little
want
bit
him
of
to
the
have. I'm
interior
not
line
sure. What are
play
you
for
seeing with
that.
the pass rush? Do you agree with me that it's
Though
just been
I was
okay, or
kind of
where do
impressed
you
with
stand on
Utah
that?
Tech's offensive and defensive lines, especially their interior guys. I thought they played really well. They had some unfortunate injuries and stuff, and that always is difficult to see. But I was actually really impressed with their line play for a majority of the game, and we did get that one interception early in the game was caused by the defensive line. I mean, they were in the backfield and they blew up that play. So it's not a sack, but that was accredited to them and what they did.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, we play. It's for another time, but we play South Dakota State. We all know how their line is. So when you're watching this game against a team that maybe will be 500 this year, you're like, oh boy, like we
yeah,
hopefully our lines play just a little better for the game. But that was just kind of my takeaway early in the game was they stuffed us and they were moving the ball for quite a bit of that game and they were giving their quarterback some time to throw the ball. Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
shred and what did they
Gosh,
call
what
their
was it?
offense? They
Yep,
just botched it. Thorny said it. Something shred.
yep,
Anyways, it's basically the version of the air raid. So they were going to pass it, and they did. Like, I think they passed it like over 41 times is what the stats say. So Montana
yep,
State giving up the yards that they did. I think they gave up like 236 yards. I don't know. We'll get into this later on, the stats part. But yeah, I guess we'll just
yep.
Montana State has some work there as far as the pass rush goes for me. I just want to see some more getting home, some disruptions. Also, one of the things I don't know. Did you notice
The
how split up
Yeah,
they
the biggest
were, like
takeaway
left
we
side,
had
right
is we
side
didn't have
of the
anybody over
defensive
the
line?
center
I don't know if
or
you could see
in
it
the
from
kind of the tackle gaps. We
where
just had
you
it
were
wide
at.
open with a linebacker kind of perusing
And it,
it. So yeah, it was a little odd. I mean, I guess
yeah,
maybe that's their kind of pass protect, their pass rush or whatever they're
hmm
trying to go after, and maybe them, from the booth, they're not looking at a run play or they're not seeing a run offensive style. But
sure,
yeah, very odd not to have kind of a nose tackle or somebody right up the gut like that.
yeah, okay. I know that's going to be a talking point for fans. It already is on Bobcat Nation. Another thing in the okay to keep this team going along, Brenton Hall. A lot to be impressed by that kid. I mean, he had 9 extra points that he nailed all of them, but some of them looked a little wonky to me. He was miskicking them a little bit. They were sneaking in just barely, and then some of them he was really booming. It made me a little bit nervous going forward into South Dakota State when we actually have to line up for a field goal to see what kind of launch he has for his kicking. And somebody mentioned that Coach Vegan was actually talking to him about it. So I don't know. Did you see anything with Brendan Hall that concerned you?
Uh, Not really concerned. He's got a leg on him. I
Yeah,
mean,
he does.
he's handling all three kicking duties, and we knew that going in. But I don't. I think there was one return that they had on the. I mean, he was kicking them nearly into the student section there on the kicks on the kickoffs. It
Oh
was
man.
impressive. It was like every time we were like, oh my goodness, he might get this one to the stands. So and when he was kicking with power with the field goals, so accuracy, we'll see with accuracy and stuff. And good for him that he really didn't have to punt a lot last night, and then he also didn't have to he didn't have to attempt a field goal. I think he was 9 for 9 on extra points, and that's all there was to it. So sometimes it's easy to be a bobcat kicker, and other so that was my big takeaway. Is boy, he's huge too, and I think the national media took that he's a huge guy.
Yep, excited to see him progress over this season. The only other thing I have in the okay category would be Snell catching the punts. What the heck? Is that our best option back there? I mean, he did a good job fielding them. That's always the main thing. But you got to think Montana State has a better weapon back there for the return of the punt. You're
I,
smiling over there. You know
I
something?
thought maybe just hands team. It was a little surprising. I actually didn't notice that until you said it, and then I started looking a little more closely at the game, and I was like, oh yeah, he is back there. And that's normally Taco's job, but
Yeah.
I couldn't. I just looked at that. I'm like, that. Where are you going to see a tight end catching punts? That's so just not what you normally see. So I thought that was pretty funny, and I got a good kick out of that. But I think honestly it was just the hands team. They just didn't want anybody fumbling, didn't want to get anybody smothered or hurt, and they just kind of told him for this game maybe just go back there and fair catch him and catch the ball.
Even if that's true, Zach, that's not our best option. Like we need a guy that can put the fear in somebody back there that he can feel the punts. Like I'm all for him being like that second tier where he's catching a pooch kick on kickoff and whatnot. Fine, but I do not want Derek Snell being my 1A punt returner.
Yeah.
I love Derek Snell, I do, but that's
Yep.
not the position I want him
Yeah. That
shining
that
in.
that was probably the head scratcher of the evening was seeing
All
that.
right. Oh man, we'll see what's going forward. I get the feeling that we weren't showing
Yeah,
anything
I wrote down
yesterday.
vanilla as vanilla comes. It was vanilla ice cream. No big cat, no little cat. I mean, Tommy was on the field, Sean was on the field. You know, we just didn't show anything. That was kind of even on defense too. I just didn't think we just showed. I mean, it was runs up the middle. It was a couple pass plays, but I didn't really see anything from us that I was like, wow, that's new or that was effective. It was just kind of pretty basic. Yep,
Oh yeah, no
yep,
stretch zone as far as run game goes. I didn't see Ty McCullough get a target. Lanata, Alexander Jr. Those guys were 0 for in the stat book yesterday, and so it was just weird to me that we were hearing so much about these guys and then doesn't show up. And I was just like, man, that has to be by design because we weren't even trying to get
yeah.
those guys the ball
Um,
yesterday.
yeah,
It just seemed
Tommy
odd.
was pretty conservative. When he took off, it was for a sideline or it was for open field where he knew he could make it go to the ground pretty easily and stuff. So very very risk averse, I thought.
Did you have anything in the
The
bad
one thing I did
category?
have is we had a couple delay of games. It's the first game and stuff, but there was a couple delay of games where it's like, oh come on guys, we're better than that. And Vegan was calling the plays, which was a little weird. So they had some weird stuff, but there was just a couple maybe management plays where I was like, we can't lose 5 yards on South Dakota State like that. So that was kind of my bad. My ugly was
Yeah,
kind of early interior line, and then the secondary got scorched a couple times.
they did. It seemed like they had the same fits as they were having last year, where there would be pockets. It's like we're asking Askelson and Danny Yu to be cover
Yep.
linebackers. Were like kind of like the Troy Anderson role, and they're just not great at that. And so I don't know if that's a depth issue, if that's a scheme issue, if that's a coaching issue. It came up again yesterday, and it's just kind of disappointing because we've heard from the coaches, specifically Coach Vegan, say, "Yeah, we are much improved in this." And maybe we turn out to be this is first game, obviously. So a lot of teaching tape
Yep.
to cover this week for the Cats, but in short term, like Well, I think Utah Tech had that long drive. We made an adjustment that second
Yep.
time around. Caden Dowler gets the pick, right? So there's some positives, but yeah, some concerns still
Yep.
linger. You're
Well,
like, okay, here we go again. Are we just gonna have to outscore
yeah,
everybody, or can we get a couple stops next week? Right? I'm
yeah,
hoping we can do
we're
both.
nitpicking
Actually,
it, but to put into perspective, they really only scored 13 points. So we held them to a touchdown and 2 field goals. So
yeah.
we can be okay with 13 points. And it's one of those things where we got to take a breath and be like, okay, that last touchdown was just garbage time and stuff. But yeah, it still, I think I'd like to see, especially coming out of the gate, the defense be a little better on that stuff.
All right. Before we end this, I was just thinking. I want to know what was the best moment for you
The best moment
last
for me,
night.
being an Air Force veteran, boy, hearing the national anthem and then seeing the aircraft go over, and that was a moment where it's like, we made it. That was kind of the moment where it's like, we made it. And
Yeah.
boy, it just was electric, and the run out is always great, and it's a great environment. So just to see the C-130 go over, and I think they do a fantastic job with the music and game day and just making that place electric.
It's amazing. I contend it's one of the best atmospheres in college football. It just comes across like that on TV, and I know when you're there, it just feels even more. Can you imagine next year when the new scoreboard is up, and then like Leon was talking in the future,
Yep,
maybe 10 years from now, I don't know what that 10 years from now looks like, but the east side of the grandstands being redone, and it's just that you think about the future for Montana State football. It's impressive, man.
it's
It
really
makes me
exciting to
proud to
see
be
the
a
fan base
Bobcat for
behind it.
sure.
Winning helps, but I think I'd be willing to guess there was another 2,000 to 3,000 people just around the tailgates, around the experience. It was very, it's a big deal if you've ever been to one of those lately, and just to see, expansions probably in the future, I'd guess, for expanding the stadium or expanding the stuff. And I think it's well needed because the student body's grown, the fan base has grown, and that yeah, it was in every one of my classes Friday. There was kids behind me. Hey, did anybody get an extra ticket? Do you have an extra ticket? And so hearing a lot of that stuff, I thought it was pretty funny that everybody's on the Bobcat bandwagon for the season, and it could really be a very special season. So I think a lot of people are going to be there, and we'll see a lot of fans. I think just about every game is sold out this year too. Just about. So wow.
Man, yeah. There was just shy of
Yeah, I
22,000
don't.
people there last night. I think it was
Yep,
second
no,
only
not an
to
attendance
the
record, but
Cactus
boy, it
last
was
year.
cool. There was I think Leon posted a cool panorama photo from the end zone at the start of the game, and just seeing all the gold and the amount of people, and the little berm on the press box side. I think it was like 10 or 15 people deep, just in the standing room area, and so it
Yeah.
could have been its own section. So
Yeah.
it was cool. It was cool to just see the fan base there and everybody there, and again, perfect day, perfect temperature, just awesome.
Right on. And now we get to go back to
Here
Brookings,
we
South
go.
Dakota to take on the number one team in the
I love
nation.
it. Here we go.
I love it, man. That's what we live for. All right, Zach. Hey, man, it's a pleasure. We're gonna do this again next week when we
Awesome.
get to
Yeah.
talk about
Thanks for
South
having me
Dakota State.
again. This podcast is special to me. I was deployed to Germany last year, so you guys were a big connection for me to Bobcat football. And when I was doing my job overseas, I remember I'd be hitting the download button or waking up and seeing if you guys had posted the instant reaction and stuff. So just really happy, and thank you for letting me be a part of this and fill in.
Oh yeah, but you can't leave without giving us a go catch, bro.
Go Cats, baby.
Go Cats.